Today's workshop is called Choosing Teaching and Learning Strategies. What we want students to do, and what we always want them to do in mathematics, is to understand concepts as well as to have good procedural skills. Engagement of students is really important in the classroom, that they're not just listening all the time, they need to participate actively and collaborate. We used a quiz as a form of assessment for number systems. We insisted during the quiz that the students would justify all their answers. So that involved them having to think about the number systems and why the different number systems were created. When you look at this one, what would you say about that? It's perfect, isn't it? So the student has factorised, they've divided the numerator and denominator by the highest common factor, they've known when they're finished, so they need to verbalise the procedures going on.
Students sometimes have a difficulty expressing what they're doing in a mathematics question. We talk it out loud and say what we're doing and why we're doing it.
It's really good for students to understand that the mathematics we have developed to make the world a better place. When students think of quiz time, it's either true, false, yes, no, and they'll just say anything sometimes. So we'll use this as a platform to ask further questions.
I think quiz time is very effective because it gets the students actively engaged. You're able to access their prior knowledge. You can get a good idea of where the students are at. You can clarify any misconceptions that they might have.
For one of the exercises, we dealt with categorical data. Right, so we're going into inferential statistics. We're going to use some simulations here. You are going to estimate the population proportion using a sample proportion. The question you're going to base it on is a question that was asked in Census at School. Where did you keep your mobile phone last night when you were asleep? So was it under the pillow or not under the pillow? So we're going to divide it into two outcomes. For the simulation, okay, we have 200 discs in this bag, and they represent all the 200 students, so that's a population. You're going to take a random sample of 25 discs from the bag, and you're going to see what proportion of that 25 kept their mobile phone under the pillow.
Their sample proportion, p hat, it's something along today. P hat is 11 out of 25.
They then went on to infer from that one sample what the true proportion of students who kept their mobile phones under the pillow was. There are two samples, same. Oh, wow, we have a lot of coincidences happening today. Okay, right. As it turned out, all of the estimations that they made were actually quite close to the true proportion. So the proportion who kept their phones under the pillow was 36, and the proportion who didn't was 64%. We can't say exactly the population proportion is 36%, but I'm fairly sure that around 36%. Isn't that it? Now, when you're teaching inferential statistics to junior classes, that's the extent they need to know, fairly sure and around. But if you go on then to Leaving Cert, what you want to do is quantify those terms. If I'm getting on a plane and somebody says they're fairly sure it's not going to crash, I'm sorry, but I'd like to have a number on it, okay? I think the teachers were very engaged in the workshop, and I think the number of activities was very much appreciated by them. So I think it was very good preparation for what they were doing in the classroom.
Project Maths really places a big emphasis on, say, practical applications of mathematics.
It's brilliant because they're more engaged, there's a lot more activities, definitely improving their understanding of math through all these activities.
It's lovely the fact that the course has changed in that you have an application that speaks for itself, so the students don't have to ask when would you actually use it, because they're using it in class in order to solve a problem. It brings it in a very real world fashion, something that's very, very concrete, but also mixing with the underlying mathematics behind it. So that's a huge change and a good change.